We will be more skeptical about it. So why not to take the advantage of having Brock Pierce here? He's one of the entrepreneurs. Okay. In terms of the crypto economy in the world, okay, he was the one responsible for having El Salvador go into the cryptocurrency structure. Okay, so we are very blessed to have you here and to share with us just your perspective that we can take advantage of it for all of us in all our different markets of how we can look and interpret what's going on in the world. So thank you for being here. Let's give him a big applause. And let's see if we can learn something about it, okay?
All right. Thank you again. I think a couple of the points there are worth noting. A lot of us are concerned right now with the state of the world, with geopolitical conflicts like the humanitarian crisis in the Ukraine right now, environmental concerns, the financial system, the amount of money that's been created, inflation. And there's all sorts of things that we're concerned about right now, and many of us are asking, what does the future hold? I don't have the answers, but I know that collectively we do. And that what we should be attempting to do is to find solutions to the world's greatest problems. As a first step, because a lot of times people take a look at what's happening here and they're like, well, this is so complicated. It's a lot of work. How am I going to figure this out? What do I do? I'll start by giving you just a really easy path to making your first step. It's really simple. Go and buy your first $100 of Bitcoin. Not as a financial investment, but as an investment in yourself, in your own knowing. That's how you begin your journey. It's that simple, because you're going to learn a lot through taking that first baby step. And you may decide, oh, well, that's not so interesting, kind of like sending your first email. You may choose that you prefer, writing letters and putting them in envelopes and buying stamps and, that slow process of snail mail. Or you may come to the realization of, wow, yeah, our financial system should run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It should be fast, secure, and efficient. You go through that process very simply. A couple of other just big data points of what's happening right now. We're seeing obviously a lot happening in government. I think it's worth pointing out the precedent that was set by El Salvador, and also to correct, I'm not responsible for what happened in El Salvador. It wasn't my idea. I didn't convince President Bukele to do this. It happened because of a little community that formed called Bitcoin Beach, and that began the conversation. And then President Bukele was very courageous, very bold. As we know, the future favors the bold. And once he made the announcement at the Miami Bitcoin conference last year, I very quickly had the ambassador of El Salvador over to my house in Washington, D.C. And I said, okay, you want to implement this Bitcoin law in 90 days? That's aggressive for a startup. Unheard of for a government unless, it's in a crisis. And what we did do is we brought down all the people to implement everything necessary to make that a success. So, just to be clear. But what's important about it, it was implemented, and when this happened, only 30% of the population of El Salvador had access to financial services. or had bank accounts. Only 30% of the population. With the implementation of the Chivo wallet, the Bitcoin law, and access to a digital dollar in this wallet, 70% of the population now has financial services in under 6 months. Currently has access. This is the greatest example I'm aware of in the world of impacting access, financial inclusion from 30% to 70% in 6 months. Importance and supporting research to make sure that America stays the capital of innovation. A bunch of us were a little nervous what might come out of the White House, and it turned out to be very positive, acknowledging the importance of this technology. Other things that are fun, if you're not following it, NFTs. The first implementation of this is in the world of art. The first ground-up NFT gallery in the world. The first space that's where it was designed for NFTs is in Puerto Rico. It's in Old San Juan, the first NFT gallery in the world. Obviously, we built it. And so if ever you're there, you should come by and check out the lighthouse. It's opened all this week. It's now open consistently, and we'll be building these around the world. What's interesting about that is I believe that culture and creativity is very important for civilization. And a lot of the artists in the world have been working in these new mediums, these digital mediums. And if you're a creative person, if you're an artist and you work in the digital mediums, there was no money in it. Because as investors or collectors of art, most of us didn't value digital art because we realized anyone can just copy it. And it wasn't until blockchain technology allowed for chain of custody, title, and scarcity that we as collectors are ascribing value to digital art. And so tens of billions of dollars of wealth has been created over the last year or two and ending up in the hands of artists that make digital art, which is really exciting that this creator economy is emerging and digital artists are doing well. We've been running all the NFT sales for the Ukrainian artists. So we've been working with the gallery owners that have had their galleries destroyed in the Ukraine and helping those artists and distributing their art to send money back to the Ukraine. We had pop-ups at South by Southwest all last week, in Dubai all this week, Miss World, which we hosted in Puerto Rico last week. Actually, also what was interesting is a bunch of nonprofits were trying to provide aid and assistance in the Ukraine. One of the organizations we work with was trying to buy buses to help get refugees out of the country. And on the ground in the Ukraine, the only form of payment they'll accept is cryptocurrency. And so these nonprofits were like, they don't know anything about cryptocurrency, they're just trying to help. But because of the disruption in financial services, everybody wants Bitcoin or Tether. And so we got involved to help facilitate a lot of these payments. The cryptocurrency community, if you read the press, has donated over $100 million to the Ukrainian sort of relief efforts. The actual number is over 300 million. The European Union gave 100 million. And so this is an altruistic community, which I think is just important to note. And it's actually, I'll share just a thought in terms of how I view money. I view money as a form of stored energy, or energy. And as Bruce Lee would say, it wishes to flow like water. It's a current, see? We're just meant to be conductors of it, to direct those resources, if we're blessed with that abundance, to the things we wish to see impacted or changed in a good way, as stewards of these resources. And this community, this next generation of people that are inheriting all of this new wealth, we're living through the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world, is ending up in the hands of people that are being taught these lessons. And I think it's much needed. And I'm really proud of the community showing up and providing support in the areas in the world that are needed right now. A lot of governments are focused on this. The group that you have here is part of the, we call ourselves the United Council of Rising Nations. It's unicorn.org, believing that nation states can be impacted positively by innovation, distribute tokens to a particular group. So I'll be doing a Brock drop of giving 2,900 Brock coins to every legal resident in the state of Vermont that can receive them. For every dollar contributed to the campaign, you receive an additional Brock coin. For putting a Brock sign or Brock stop like Pokemon Go in your augmented reality in your yard, you earn more coins. If you have the Brock the Vote wallet, you can see in augmented reality and go to the Capitol building, monuments, things, stuff that encourages civic participation, you're earning more coins. You go by the signs, you watch the daily video as we share and educate, you earn more coins. You share that video, you earn more coins. I used to make games for Facebook and mobile phones, and I ran all the virtual currency markets for a decade before Bitcoin. And so all this sort of taking the political game and turning it into a literal game for civic engagement and participation. So what can you do with all of these coins? You know, I'm a politician, so I'm not for sale, but what you do is you buy access. You know, in the same way that lobbyists or special interests might, except for that we're making that access available to everyone, to normal people, democratizing access to your candidate or your elected official. If you have a particular policy issue you want to discuss, you pool your coins together to come have that meeting, to come have that discussion, completely transparently. Every single person I meet, you know, all of that information being transparent. So democratization of access by creating a tool for a game for civic participation, play the game, earn your coins, get access, create influence. And then as someone in office, if our founding fathers had the tools that we have today, what would they do differently? We'd create a more representative democracy. And so I can share with my constituents everything that is happening on the Hill. And you can say, with your coins, I can put stake behind it, I can put weight behind it, so you, the people, you know, can share your views, and I can act and be a better representative as a result of having that real-time communication, understanding the issues and how the people feel about it with a direct set of tools. You know, DAOs, I mentioned a little earlier, a project I'm super excited about. How many of you know what diatoms are? Diatom, D-I-A-T-O-M, diatom. It's a phytoplankton, a single-celled organism in our oceans that is responsible for sequestering 50% of the world's carbon. These diatoms create over 50% of the world's oxygen, the air we breathe. And they have a very important relationship with the whales in the ocean. There was actually a Star Trek episode that showed that if the whales died, the world would die. It actually turns out they were right. And so we created a thing called Diatom DAO, a DAO being a new system of governance, a decentralized autonomous organization